What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sports Talk 101. And we'll recap college football. Let me pull up ESPN here. Great week of college football. It's in the books. Was it? Week 10? Let me just tell you, week 10? What is it? Week 10 in the books. Look, it's already November. Whether it comes out, we're already November. We have like 3 weeks left. Roughly 2 weeks left. Football season is gonna come. We're getting close to rival weekend coming up. Thanksgiving's coming up. I mean, we're getting ready for the end of season college football. But boy, it was great game weekends over on the we got games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The few games I want to highlight right now, and then we'll just a few of them. We'll start with the Saturday games. Majority of the games were Saturday. The only game that outside of Saturday to me. Now we're talking about this too. We're talking about playoffs. Which group of five team can make the playoffs? We always have it. Will it be James Madison? I think it's gonna be James. Look, they're 7-1. They lost to Louisville. They got App State, Washington State, and Coastal Carolina, and got Marshall. If they won the table and they win their conference in somebody's, I would be surprised if James Madison is definitely a team to think about with a playoff race, especially for a group of five teams. Memphis is up there, no longer ranked, but only lost is UAB. Got Tulane, they got East Carolina Navy, and that's pretty much the schedule coming up for Memphis, group of five team. UTSA, let's see, for the record, no, they're not gonna make it. It'll come down to, and then Tulane only lost to is to UTSA and Ole Miss. They got and Memphis, they got FAU, they got Temple. So if they lose this Memphis game, this is a big win. This is a big game. Tulane versus Memphis. We'll talk about the game when it comes to it, but that'll be a good game, specifically for who will present the group of five. It'll come down to James Madison, Tulane, and you for sure. James Madison, Tulane, and Memphis. I think the 1 through 3 teams there. Ohio State cruising to beat shit out of Penn State 38-14. Indiana's. I think I've told you this, but Indiana, and we'll talk about the standings right now. And we talk about conference play. What we're gonna look at? Well, guess what? Conference play. This time of year we talk. Okay, who's to make playoffs? But more importantly, who's gonna go to conference play? Because this time of year, okay, whoever the conference is making, right? How many teams are gonna go from the Big Ten? How many teams for the SEC? How many for the ACC? I'm gonna be surprised if ACC said 14. I'll tell you why. I won't be surprised if the Big Ten says 2, 3, 4 teams go in. 4 teams from the Big Ten, four teams from the it's 5 teams from the SEC, but a couple 3 teams at least from the ACC, at least 3 teams from the Big 12, and maybe one Group 5 team. Don't be surprised if that's the playoff format we're gonna have in this 12-team playoff. But speaking of Indiana wins against Maryland, 55-10. Indiana's off to a great start. They play Ohio State. They play Michigan. They void 2 of their weekly usual opponent, Ohio State and Michigan. They play at Penn State, and I think it's to beat Penn State. Georgia against Florida. Georgia wins a close one, 24-20. Ole Miss beats South Carolina, 32-14. NC State pulls the upset against Georgia Tech. Let me tell you about Georgia Tech. They won. They were undefeated leading up to this game. Okay? And let me tell you something. They got Boston College, Pitt, and Georgia. The only game in the conference wise, Boston College, if they can win these 2 games, and we talk about this too. I'm gonna actually bring this up actually. Let's get to it actually. Let's get to it. Okay, you look at the ACC, and you start to look at conference. Well, look at Virginia 5-0 conference A1. Georgia Tech 5-1. Only loss is to NC State. So you look at conference. Who's gonna make conference champion? Look. 5-0, 5-1, 5-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. It basically goes up to Duke. Miami lost, by the way. We'll talk about it in a second. But look at this. It's going to come down to Virginia, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Pitt, And you look at Pitt's schedule. They got Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami. Two of the tougher games. Look, this is the schedule. This is what they look at. If they lose to Georgia Tech and Miami, they're not making the ACC championship. And I don't think if they lose those two games, Kiss could look. Virginia has maybe they got pretty much a decent schedule ahead of them. Virginia does. So does Georgia Tech. So does Georgia. In lieu of this. So that's a little conference wise. Big 12 is a little. It's kind of harder to do, but got BYU, got Texas Tech, got Cincinnati, Houston, Utah. One of these teams is going to go to the Big 12. For the Big 10, it's here. It'll come down to Indiana, Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. One of these teams making the NCAA playoffs. I think these 4 teams make the playoffs. These are 4 playoff teams. Not saying Michigan is not. Okay, Michigan's got Ohio State in the year, and if they beat Ohio State, and remember, Oregon only losses to Indiana. Well, one loss, and Ohio State losses to Michigan. They look at it like a Michigan versus Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. That'll be crazy, but it is possible that could match up there. But Michigan's only 5-1 in conference play. 5-1. Yeah, users. Look, Indiana they got easy schedule ahead of them. Look, they go with Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue. Yeah, this is tough because it's on the road with Penn State. But guess what? That's the game they're playing. Not to say it will be what it is, but I'm just telling you right now, that's the results what I'm seeing from the Big 12 and the Big 10. Texas beat Vandy 34-31. SMU beats Miami in overtime 26-28. This is a game. Notre Dame wins. Texas Tech wins. Oklahoma beats Tennessee 32-27. Virginia goes on the road after trailing a little bit in a close game. 31-21 10-point game over Cal. Louisville the win over 28-16 win over Virginia Tech. Utah beats Cincinnati 45-14. Michigan beats Purdue 21-16. But Virginia pulled up beating Houston 45-35. USC beats Nebraska 21-17. Goodbye, Nebraska. This is over. Got a big playoff. And then make the Big Ten championship game. USC keeps the Big Ten championship game alive and playoff games alive. Illinois beats Rutgers 35-13. Clemson loses to Duke in 46-45. Close game there. Minnesota beats Michigan State 23-0 in overtime. So these are the games that we saw the weekend. Final scores there, you can see their games. Mississippi State beats Arkansas 38-35. This is the game, battle of the two. Somebody's got to win this game type of deal there. So there's that. Hugh Freeze, no longer head coach at Auburn. I'm making some of it, but got a lot of coaching changes. James Franklin fired. Hugh Freeze fired. Virginia fired that coach at the beginning of the year. I believe Marshall fired that coach. Brian Kelly no longer head coach at LSU. So there's that. Okay. Like I said, we're week 10 in the season. You'll get to the point where like I said, just start to figure out who's going to make a playoff, but how does conference also have a conference play, conference championship game, 12-team play, how many teams get for the playoff from each conference? Of course, actually one group of 5 team, maybe, probably 4, 5 there. And like I said, there's always coach changing. We'll see how it goes with the coach changing. It should be interesting. Honestly, to be truth, that is truth. And I will be honest with you. And what I've seen, I should say, there's another group of 5 team that's gonna make it a deal, and that's UNLV. They're 6-2. The only loss is to Boise State, New Mexico, back-to-back games. They got Colorado State, got Utah State, they got Hawaii, got Nevada. Not saying that this is a team to go beat, but UNLV 62 UNLV, you gotta start thinking, okay, can they do it? Well, it leads me to this. This is the so remember it's a 3-day play. Remember, the full conference teams get by, and then it could be rest will be at large bitch, right? So remember, 7 conference champions high ranked school, and then of course last season so 4 usually get by, and then 6 and 7 conference champions, and then rest of remaining at large, committee, right? So you look at path, right? So look at path. Look, Indiana, Ohio State, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. These are the teams that we look. Okay, I would see. Look, if I click Michigan, and this is not saying Michigan will win it, the chances are Michigan. You know, look, beat Ohio State's not. Look, they're being no Western, right? They're being Maryland. Can they be Ohio State? Let's say they beat Ohio State for purposes. And let's say they go to conference championship game. I'm going to put some hypothetical. Let's say yes. Michigan's chances to make the playoff 100%, 68 by first round. Look, Michigan is going to get as far as Texas A&M and lose. Look. So you got Ohio State. What's Manson? You play Michigan, Manson, you play Texas. And you can do this, any team. Let's say I did, for example, Indiana, right? They go on to win all the games. They go on to win the conference championship. And look at Indiana. Look, they get first round bye. Host first round, no. They're gonna lose to Notre Dame, right? In this scenario, and you can do this. This is like this is called the college football playoff. You can go to ESPN, tells you, chances of AF predictor. We can look at A&M for example. Let's say they beat Missouri, but let's say they lose to Texas. And they go text the conference, this is see it, it's how well they do, and they will tell you if they win the whole thing or not. So, and you see what I'm saying. And because of the 20 playoff, and there's a really new era of college football, folks. All right, guys. So that's me explaining to you the 20 playoff, also different scenarios, different teams, how they will do in playoffs. But I think I don't know who will win playoff in the next game, but we'll get a point where we're like conference championship wins. We get a point like every single game matters, right? Every game, especially conference games, because getting a conference bye means you get a bye weekend. You can get a really good job, an injury you have, whatnot, right before, especially right before the playoff game. Let's say you make a playoff, right? The top of the playoff game, right? This is crucial. Get it by in the first round playoffs is crucial for injury purposes and also to game plan purposes, as much as bye weeks are throughout the season, as that. So there you have it, folks. Little playoff prediction. This random scenarios I give you a week at week 10. I cannot wait. It's here. Coffee Boys is here. Like and subscribe, channel notification up. I suppose check out. So video. Peace.